Welcome, everybody, to the Get Frumpy Happy Hour with everybody's favorite frumpy broad, brilliant writer, and beloved columnist, Marla Jo Fisher. I'm Sam Dunn. I'm a senior editor at the Southern California News Group, but most importantly, I'm a proud FOM friend of Marla's. Now, the reason for the season. It is my distinct pleasure to bring on author of Frumpy Middle-Aged Mom, Dispatches from the Front Lines of Motherhood, a collection of some of her many favorite columns from the Orange County Register, Marla Jo Fisher. Hey, Marla.
Hi, hi, hi. I hope everybody has their beverage of choice. This is mine. I got to show you this. Okay, so Sam, I know that you're all healthy and stuff now. You drink kombucha, but this is the wine that I got as a gift, and the name of it is Unruly Rampant. And so
Oh,
that seems very, I mean, like somebody sent it to me, and they obviously know me, right? So,
yeah,
and the reason
obviously know you.
and the reason I'm wearing my cowboy hat is because some of you might have read my column this week about all the drama involved in, well, now it's all crooked, and about all the drama involved in buying a cowboy hat in Montana. And if you haven't read it, what can I say? You should read it. Anyway, so,
Hey, I'm going to get
so
out of here for now.
okay, bye,
You
Sam.
can take on, and I'll see you later.
All right. Well, what we're doing this week is super cool to me because there's a certain woman named Vicki Barbolak, and she's a comedian. And some of you know her from working with the funniest housewives of Orange County, and many of you know her from being a finalist on America's Got Talent. And I know her because I was a fangirl of hers way back when before she got famous, and I just kept, pursuing her and pursuing her until she agreed to become my friend. So now she is my friend, and we have some interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to give you a little back scenes tour of her, of her life and her trailer and things that went on in America's Next Got Talent. So, no further ado, Vicki Barbolak. Vicki, are you there? I'm not sure.
What is it? Is it
Run,
on?
run,
Is
run,
it on? Am I here?
You're
Is
on.
there? Okay. Hello.
Yay!
I'm here.
Hi,
Hey,
Vicki.
Marla. Hey, Marla Joe. Jimmy wanted to say hello. He wanted to be
I
on the
wanted,
show.
I asked Vicki to bring Jimmy on because Jimmy comes to all her shows with her, and
No,
so you don't get to meet Jimmy, but he's always backstage, just patiently waiting for her to come off. And my dog Lil Wayne would never do that because he would just be getting into so much trouble. So I
well,
don't know how you
you
do
know,
that with him, but
unfortunately, Jimmy is no longer able to fly. He's gotten so old, he's incontinent, and only one of us could shit in the
oh,
airport on the same day. So he can't fly with me anymore. So my old friend Paula's been taking care of him when we travel by plane.
okay. So I just
Love the
showed off.
hat.
I
Can,
just showed off the wine that I'm drinking. So are
can,
you drinking any wine?
Yeah, I've got a nice chilled box of Pinot Grigio. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
You know,
Cheers to you. Cheers to
uh,
all, cheers to everybody who's tuning in right now.
I just want to say
So,
to everyone out there, in the interest of global warming, if everyone would consider changing to boxed wines, we could stop the melting of the ice caps, because the carbon imprint of a boxed wine is like nothing compared to a bottle. Okay, so I hate to sound like Greta Grunberg or whatever that kid's name is, but listen, it's, if you care about the environment, switch to the box wines. Okay, plus you get four bottles for $10. Okay, delicious.
all right. So I have an important question, and I know the answer to this, but I think a lot of people who are watching do not know, which is you make a big deal about living in a trailer. Do you
Yeah.
really live in a trailer?
No, I live in a high-rise condo in Miami. Unfortunately, I'm a little concerned right now. No, I'm the too soon. Yes. No, yeah, I live in a trailer park, and would you guys like to see the trailer?
Yeah, we want to see the trailer.
Would you like a little tour?
Yes, please show
Okay,
us the
well,
trailer.
I'll tour you around. So, well, this is this is my kitchen. Oh God, it's a mess. But anyway, this is the kitchen, and this is the world's largest refrigerator. We call it our panic room. It's supposed to be like built into a wall, but if there's an earthquake, a small person could save their lives. And then this is the extra side room that my grandsons hang out in, and my grandson Joel painted the underwater mural. Can you guys see that?
It's very cool. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. And then there's our bedroom back there is nothing big, and another guest bedroom. My bathroom, this is our guest bathroom, which I'm very proud of because my daughter said it was blood red, mommy. And I said, no, it's orange. And we have the avocado tub, which is circa 1967. You don't find those everywhere. And then my tropical heat wave tour poster. My friend Sean Pulaski, one of my best friends in comedy, her mother Ginger is a great painter, and she gave me this beautiful painting. And then here's our like family. I'm sorry, it's such a mess. I'm so embarrassed. Family room, living room. My husband Lou is the piano player at the Comedy Store. That's his grand piano, but it's the best. We live up here on the hill, and we just love it out here. That's our gazebo. And oh yeah, of course I have an above ground pool because you have to if you're a trailer nasty. And then our deck. And yeah, it's a complete mess, but I love it here.
I've been in that gazebo and you have the most incredible view. It's just really beautiful.
It is. Look at how pretty. I mean, see those houses over there, those $1 million houses on that hill? We always sit here and have a glass of wine and go, what are they looking at? A trailer park. We definitely have a better view.
Okay, so I have another question for you. Okay, so now that you've become famous after being on America's Got Talent, do the people in the trailer park treat you differently? Or do you feel differently when you walk around the trailer? Do you have to ride your bike around the trailer park, whatever you do?
Well, you know, the thing is, we used to live down by the laundry mart, what I call the ghetto part of the trailer park. The trailer parks are like high school. They're very much like high school. There's like the cool kids, the late.
All right, well, we're freezing up, so let's see what happens while Vicki can figure out how to get herself back online. One of the things that is interesting is that Vicki was on America's Got Talent in 2018, and she was super worried and nervous about being on the show. She didn't know what was going to happen. At that time, she was, you know, working sporadically, but not making that much money. But anybody who knew her knew that she was unbelievably talented. So basically, when we saw her and I came to see her on America's Got Talent, I mean, it's like Heidi Klum. I love Heidi Klum. And it's Heidi Klum when Heidi Klum was on, and Simon Cowell and Howie Mandel and all these, you know, major stars. When they saw Vicki, she just blew their mind, and we all knew that would happen. But of course, she didn't know that would happen because you're always nervous about this sorts of things. So, do we have any? What's going on? Can anybody even hear me at this point? Do we have any picture? Do we have any sound?
Yep. We've got okay. You, babe, but we don't have Vicki.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
there she is.
There's
Okay,
Vicki back. But we can't hear you now. We lost you.
Sorry. I guess the tour, you know, I guess I lost the internet connection. So sorry. Anyway,
we're back now. Okay, so I wanted to, let's see, what do I want to ask you? So,
is it different in the trailer park?
Right. Oh, does everybody, do you get treated differently, or do you feel differently now when you walk around the trailer park?
Totally different. Like I was never allowed in the ladies group before, like not even close, just like the rest of my life. And now I'm like, oh, would you like to come to ladies group? You know, and now that we're at the top, I call this the heights. That's what I call the heights. And then that's in where we live. And, you know, people, you know, come up and they're like looking up at me, and I give them like a queen wave, you know, and it's, I'm not able to be friends with anyone below the drainage ditch, which is like a fake lake. They call it a lake, but it's really a drainage ditch. So I don't really feel comfortable talking with those people anymore, you know, now that I'm up here. So it's very different, very different.
Well, we're so happy. We're so happy that you have,
I'm kidding.
Like, I'm kidding. World, right?
Yeah. Yes. This is a weird thing. This trailer park is like, it's so weird. Like everybody there's 350 trailers in this trailer park. And you just think we're all like the happiest bunch of kids that ever got into the candy store. all of us, like, there's maybe like 10 or 12 assholes in this park, maybe, you know, that I've ever ran into, but everybody else is just like me. We're just like, oh my God, we get to live in Oceanside. We only have to spend $700 a month. We all like each other. We have parties. We have this pool that's open 24 hours a day. They didn't even close it at night. It's heated all year. I mean, it's just like everybody helps. It's like, it's almost like Mayberry. It's weird. You have to wave when you see everybody. You can't not wave. It's like a little town. I know it's weird, but it's perfect.
You know, sometimes people look down on trailer parks and people who live in trailer parks, but
Yeah.
I lived in a trailer park at one time. In fact, when I was a baby, I was in a trailer park, and my parents actually got their trailer repossessed when they were like in their 20s, you know, because they didn't pay their bills, I guess. So, you know, I think that puts me in a special place in the trailer pantheon. And actually, Miss Sam Dunn, who was just on introducing me, actually has been writing a book for a few years about growing up in a trailer and what trailers, you know, what trailer communities mean in America. So,
Yep.
So we have like this fabulous trailer bond, you know, right? Yeah.
Lot number 78, Enchanted Hills Trailer Park. Representing. Okay, I'm out. Bye.
Okay. All right. So what I want to talk to you about, okay, I want to talk about what you're going to be doing and stuff like that. But, you know, I always try to think about what I can tell people that they want to know. And the first thing, of course, you want to know is, why am I wearing this cowboy hat? And I just want to remind you that I was in Montana, and so I'm wearing it. And now it's kind of hot where I'm sitting right now, but I can't take it off because then I'll have hat hair, you know, so my hair will look really bad. So I have to keep the hat on for the entire hour. So you're stuck with it. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk to you about, because it's a subject that I know a lot about, is trying to follow your passion, you know, even though you don't really see any way for it to pay off for you immediately. You know, I became a writer. My parents did not approve of me trying to become a writer when I went to college. So I didn't major in writing. I majored in political science, which of course is such a useful skill, right? And I ended up becoming a writer later in my life, like in my 30s, because I just had to write. I couldn't stand it. I had to write. And then I went to work for different newspapers, and I ended up writing a column, which is, you know, how you got to know me, how everybody here got to know me. But one thing that I do know is that if you follow your passion, it will take you somewhere. And it's a remarkable journey, because often when you start out, you don't know where you're going to go, and you don't know how you could possibly ever make any money doing this. But you know what? You're doing something that you love, and you just have to keep doing it. When I started out, I started writing for newspapers that would let me write for free. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it until somebody was brilliant enough to hire me, to pay me to do it. And I wanted to talk to you about that, Vicki, because I think you're a perfect example of that, because I know, you know, you started out as a carpet salesman, right? A carpet saleswoman. And somehow you gave up that fabulous career to, you know, become an itinerant comedian. Okay, I'm not hearing you. Do we have any sound?
I remember, okay. Is that good? I remember when I first talked to you and you told me that story about writing for free. And it's the same thing with comedy. You have to do it for free. You can't expect people to pay you for something you don't know how to do. So you just have to keep doing it. You have to assume that you're going to do it for free, I thought, and you thought as well. And then you just kept working at it until eventually you get a little bit of money. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, I was working for my parents. I started a carpet store with my parents when I was 19. And I worked there. We built this carpet store up in this crate. My parents were insane. And I worked with them for 20 years. And like, they would like get like drunk and fall asleep on the carpet rolls. And because our liquor store was next door to our carpet store, so convenient. And at the end of the day, they just start drinking, and they wouldn't shut the door. In the morning, people would come in, and my mom and dad would be passed out on the carpet rolls. People come in, hey, you open? Like, what? You know, my mom and dad like, yeah, what are you looking for? And so that was like 20 years of my dad, you know, starting every morning with this motivational speech, you know, assholes. That's all I get to work for me. I'm going to put an ad under the paper for A for assholes. And who's the asshole in charge of this store? You are, Dad. I mean, it was like 20 years of this and working with this insane, back in the days before Yelp, that's what you could be a crazy family in a business. And I worked there 20 years but we made a lot of money. And I started doing stand-up just on a lark, and I was always like trying to make people laugh my whole life. It was like really important to me. And then I just started when the first time I actually did stand up and on a stage and people laughed, it was just, I loved it so much. I just wanted to keep doing it. And eventually after 4 or 5 years, I told my parents, just sell the store. And everyone's like, are you insane? I mean, like my priest, everyone I knew was like, don't you do this. You're insane. You have children. And my marriage is falling apart. And that marriage, all of my marriages fell apart, but that one in particular was falling apart at that time. And it was just like, I just couldn't, like I couldn't see any way around it. And I'm like, I don't care. And I bought a trailer for $11,000 and moved in with my 2 daughters and just crossed my fingers. And I jumped with like everyone who knew me thought I was crazy. And I didn't know if I was crazy or not. I just didn't, I knew if I kept selling carpet, I was gonna, I couldn't live. And
didn't you tell me that you took a Parks and Rec class, or what was that? You took a stand-up class, right?
Yeah. What happened was one day I was in the bathroom and there was this ad for a stand-up comedy sticking out of the trash can. I picked it up with Sandy Shore, Pauly Shore's sister, at the Comedy Store in La Jolla. And it had a picture of Mae West. That was the logo for the ad. And I love Mae West. So I picked it up and I go, eh. I remember I called my cousin Dan, who's like a big investor. And that's the only thing that tells me that I think I might have known I had a spark, because I go, Dan, would you pay for this class? I had plenty of money. I go, would you invest in this class? Because everything you invest in turns out. Would you invest in me becoming a comic? It was really the weirdest thing for me to do, because I'd never even been to a stand-up. I've only been to one stand-up comedy show in my life. And I loved albums, but, and he goes, sure. And he sent me like $100 or whatever. And I took this first class and I met these 4 guys that were really special. But I walked in with 3 big books. I got 3 big books from my bookshelf so that when I got to the class, people would think I was smart. I did.
Did you, so, and then you told me, like, so you take this class, right? You got hooked. And then did you tell me that you and your friend used to just go and kind of crash bars and try to do comedy?
I was especially bad. I was probably one of the worst comics ever in the beginning. So I would never get on at the Comedy Store open mic nights. Fred Burns, who's like, he was like this amazing, brilliant comedian. And he was a manager of the La Jolla Comedy Store. And he hated me. He hated me mostly because I took Sandy's class, because then you were a real idiot. And then I took it like 3 times and I was a triple idiot. And I was just awful when I first started. And so, but what happened was, we just kept going into bars, and there was no open mic. So I got a PA and a microphone, and me and my friends, Tony and Howard and Jim, we would just show up at bars in Ocean Beach. There was like a row of bars. So we just show up and ruin people's nights with our shitty comedy until the manager kicked us out. We just go to the next bar, the next bar, and the next bar. And we did that for years. And because, it was so brutal. And if you got one laugh, you knew you had a good joke. And I don't know. I thought that was what everybody did. I didn't know. It was weird. And then
well, let me ask you this, okay? Because, I had those experiences too, but it's way more scary to me to go and do it in public, right? I mean, at least when you're a writer, you get rejected in private usually, you know what I mean? So like getting rejected in public, it just takes a certain amount of chutzpah to do that. I mean, how did you get the nerve to do that? Or what did you say to yourself before you would go on and do that?
It's so weird. I was rejected so much in my life from so many things. Rejection felt oddly comfortable to me. It felt actually too comfortable. And it actually got to the point where my friends had to say to me, Vicki, you need to stop bombing. You need to stop bombing. I really did enjoy the bombing too much. and they really like did a bombing intervention. And they said, you have to stop this and you have to not bomb anymore. And I'm like, really? Okay. But some guy told me a long time ago, a guy named Argus Hamilton, who I went into all the time in LA, but he told me that you need to bomb in the beginning. Well, he didn't mean every night, but I took that as every night for years. And so I started thinking, okay, you guys are right. But being successful, that was something that was going to be more challenging for me. And but as soon as I stopped bombing like intentionally, uh because I also had done it long enough that I built some really funny material I can make people laugh for 5 to 7 minutes. I started really appreciating, just as I did when I first performed, what it means to make people laugh. And then I just turned around completely, and just that became my new goal, rather than to bomb, to make people laugh. And then I just, um became able to accept that it was working, and because I was making people happy, it made it worthwhile for me to succeed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my first newspaper job, I talked my way into the job because I flunked all the writing tests they gave me, right? And I completely flunked everything, and I'd hit it off with the editor, and he calls me into his office after he gave me these writing tests and I flunked all of them. And he's like, Marla, I'd really like to hire you, but how can I hire you when you flunked all the tests, right? And the thing was that you just have to be bold, right? I mean, whatever apprehensions you have to just swallow them. And so one of the things I learned is in my career is you don't take no for an answer. And so I looked at him and I'm like, Mike, look, I really want this job. I really, really want it. I understand that I failed all the tests and everything, but if you'll just give me a chance for 2 weeks. And if after 2 weeks I don't work out, I'll just go away and I'll never bother you again. But if you let me have the job, then I'll wash your car every week for the 2,
Yes,
and,
yes.
and what happened is that I never left that job until I got a better job, and I actually never had to wash his car. And so it was a fabulous situation. And really, I just feel like you bomb in the beginning, and I feel like I know I did, and
Yeah.
people just get discouraged and they think I suck and I can't do this, and it's a
Yes,
big mistake and I shouldn't be doing it.
it is.
But
It is.
right, but everybody sucks in the beginning,
It's
and the
like,
difference is whether you persevere. That's the difference,
right. I used to
right?
pretend that I was a bricklayer. And if you start to be a bricklayer in a union, you're not going to be a master bricklayer. You're going to go in as a very bottom bricklayer, and you're going to be the guy that brings the mud to the other bricklayers who know how to lay the brick. And I just felt like it was no different with comedy. I felt like I was a journeyman who was going to learn how to, become a master comedian. I just thought that was something that I wanted to do. I was willing to, I really thought it would be like that. And it kind of has been like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the interesting thing is that we were so happy when you got America's Got Talent, because those of us who knew you and had seen you would be frustrated because we would go see you at the Comedy Store and you wouldn't be the headliner, but you were
Yeah.
so much better than all the other people. And it was always frustrating to me that you weren't the headliner, which I can only really attribute to the fact that you're a woman. But
Well, yeah, a 45 or 50-year-old woman.
yeah.
No
So
shit.
I was so delighted when I saw you at America's Got Talent, and I saw the reactions from the fans and from the judges. I was like, "Yay, she's getting her due!" But like, were you expecting that? I mean, what were you expecting when you went on that show?
Honestly, when I went on that show, um, I was really, I couldn't believe I got on that show. I thought I was way too edgy for that show. I could not believe they took me. And then when I did get on the show and they go, you're going to be on the show, they kind of let you know you're going to be on the show. And I'm like, okay. And then I remember I had to prepare my first 2 minutes, which took, 3 months of like going out, like, maybe 100, 300, 400 performances to get that 2 minutes to the point that I felt like it was the right 2 minutes. And then I felt, this is even comedy. This is bullshit. How can how can you be asked to be a comic in 2 minutes? But then I started really getting into the zen of making a 2-minute set, and I really liked it, because I'd finally gotten to the point as a comedian where I could just go on stage and have no idea what I was going to do and do it. That's what you want to get to as a comic. And after 20 years, I finally got there. Now I'm like now I have to go inch by inch, sentence by sentence, syllable by syllable, and take that down. But that turned out to be a really fabulous challenge for me, and a really good discipline thing. I liked it. After a while, I stopped resisting and went, yeah. So, but right before I didn't know anything to expect, but they were all wonderful people to work with. But right before I went on stage, my daughters were with me, and they said, Mom, Simon's going to buzz you. You get 3 buzzes, Mom. You got to keep going. And don't stop after the first buzz. Don't stop after the second. Keep going, Mom. So we were backstage, and we were coming up with like a funny joke I would say when I got buzzed with my hands, how I would handle it. We practiced in the very few minutes before I was going on what it was going to be like for me to get buzzed 3 times. That's all we knew. We were pretty sure I was going to get buzzed off.
And instead,
that night was the biggest thing, because that was the night when Simon said, "You're the funniest comedian we've ever had." And Howie said, "You're like Joan Rivers to me." And it was like, I didn't ever know that I've been waiting all those 20 years for somebody to say, "You're good." The audience said it, but I got so much rejection from the industry because I didn't start till I was 40, and I'm a big fat weirdo. Nobody could get their head around me back then. And now women have made some strides, and I came off the backs of other women, and other women come off it's definitely a stairway that we were all walking on. But at that time, when I started, I was only Mitzi. Thank God Mitzi Shore loved me, and that made me have a career. She was way more important to me than AGT, but AGT is second to Mitzi. But that night, I just didn't know how much I needed to hear that or wanted to hear that. But that just broke me down to the point of I could barely believe it. It was just so like, wow, I really did want people to say you're good.
Vicki, let me just jump in. Sorry, we have an audience member question that I think is really relevant. That's why I hopped in. Nadia asked you, how do you keep functioning when there is so much rejection? So there you go.
Well, luckily for me, I was constantly rejected by, kids at school. My parents really didn't think I was going to go anywhere. So rejection was unfortunately way too comfortable for me. So, like I say, the rejection didn't stop me, because that was here. But when I love comedy so much, I had this goal my only goal was to become so good people wouldn't ignore me. And I didn't have a good business sense or anything like that, but I just had this goal that I would become so good that I wouldn't be ignored. And I didn't, and I got that sentence from Steve Martin when I was very first starting. I read his book. He said that, and I just kept hoping that would happen. So I guess the idea of how I kept going was just sheer hope and my love of making people laugh. When I'm on stage and people are laughing, it's like eating a donut and getting a diamond ring at the same time. I just love it so much.
I was very sensitive when I was a girl. Both of my parents were Virgos, right? So
you mean you had 4 parents? Did you have 4 parents?
I had, it was like having 4 Virgos in the house. Right. There was only 2 Virgos in the house, but it was like having 4, right? Yeah. And they were very critical all the time because they were Virgos. They really couldn't help it, And so they had these very high aspirations for me because I was the first person in their family to ever go to university. But yet at the same time, they really didn't know how to help me. They didn't know how to, they had not experienced any of that themselves. So I always had this tremendous desire to write, but at the same time, I felt that I was so bad at it that I kept sabotaging myself. Like whenever I would start being successful as a writer in any fashion, I would get inside my head, and all these voices in my head would keep telling me that I sucked. And then I would always find some way. It became so painful that I would always find some way to sabotage it so that I could go back and do something else that wasn't painful. And I did those other things like doing entertainment business management, doing other kinds of jobs that I could do perfectly well. And they weren't painful because writing was painful because it's the only thing I actually cared about.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then, but there came that point when I got that first job at the Glendale News Press. You know, the editor there, the one who hired me when I promised to wash his car, he would sit with me. He saw how much I wanted to learn. So he would sit with me at night, and he was a real a-hole, and he would scream at me, right? So he would sit there at night and he would tell me how stupid I was because I really didn't know how to do news writing at that point, right?
Right.
And he would scream at me and he would tell me how stupid I was, and I would have to go in the bathroom and cry. But then I would come back out of the bathroom and I would just tell myself, this is not brain surgery. You can learn this, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I would wipe off my tears and I would go back and I would just sit down with him. And then, you know, it finally got to the point where, you know, I wasn't crying anymore. And that, you know, and that's the thing to me, because when I was taking writing classes when I was younger, there would be so many people in the class who I felt were so much more talented than I was. But you know what? They didn't stick with it.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that stuck with it. And
Yeah.
that's why I have this fabulous career that I have today, and I make
Yeah.
so much money, you know, is because that's a joke, by the way, you guys. And
She
because
does
I stuck
actually
with
own
it.
her own house and or two. So yeah, she has done very well. Congrats.
So anyway, I feel that you could probably share that experience, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I just I as well would always think, am I good enough? Am I okay, good enough to do this tonight? You know, like, am I as good as this lineup? You know, and there's that, you know, when like, you know, when people, managers and agents would say, you're not, you know, you're not right for us, you know, you're not, we can't help you, you're not, no, you're not relevant, whatever. And I would just take that and I would like believe them for a while, and I'd go back and I go, yeah. But then I just couldn't help but crawl back on a stage as soon as possible. And that's just what I kept doing. And I'm just so grateful that I did that. You know, I just had no, and I was luckily that trailer whole world of living, like if you find a way to, if you have a dream and you want to do it, and you can find a way to live on almost hardly any money, and then make that dream come true, that's like a real key. And for me, that first trailer I bought for $11,000 and moved my daughters in to this trailer and asked them to give up so much, you know, but we started shopping at thrift stores right away, and we, you know, they went along with it. And I, you know, the other day I asked my daughter Emily, I go, can I see your yearbook, because I was wanting to do some project. And she goes, oh, we couldn't afford a yearbook. And it just like killed me to know that she goes, yeah, I told you I didn't want one, but we couldn't afford one. And that just like killed me. And then she called, she's in Maui right now, and she called me this morning. She's with my cousins, and she goes, Mom, we were just talking about you, and I know you're writing your book, and you've been feeling really bad. But she goes, you know, I just want you to know how much I talk about how much fun it was growing up in our house, in our trailer, and how much fun it was, you know, being on the road with you and going to Hollywood and your friends. Mom, I wouldn't have traded any of it. It was like, I just wanted to cry, because I always feel, still feel, we all, as mothers, we always feel like, ugh, we didn't do enough. We didn't do it right. We took too much for ourselves. I mean, especially if you're doing art, you're asking a lot of the people around you, you know?
Well, you know, one of the things that I know that I remember is that I also shopped at thrift shops. And the funny thing was, I never wanted to be poor. We were very poor when I was a girl, right? And I just didn't want to be poor. And one of the reasons I didn't pursue being a professional writer when I was younger is I didn't want to be poor, right?
Right.
And but the funny thing was, when I finally realized that that was the only thing I had to do, was I just had to write, and I was trying to live on $300 a week. This was 30 years ago, by the way, trying to live on $300 a week,
Yeah.
right, in LA, supporting myself entirely. You know, I had to give it all up. I gave it all up, and I lived in this ratty old bungalow in the Ramparts district, you know, where you couldn't leave your lawnmower, your lawn sprinkler out front, or it would get stolen.
Yeah.
And I had to shop at thrift shops. That's where I bought my clothes. And you know what? I thought that would be really hard. And guess what? It wasn't hard at all because I was happy. I was
Exactly.
happy.
There, like that's exactly it. I mean, you have to, that's just like that's the thing about the thing I liked about the very beginning of COVID. I thought like the whole world might learn that lesson, that we learned. A lot of people did learn that lesson. All the things you're used to, they're not really necessary. That was like a really cool thing about COVID, was like the 2020 COVID came, 2020 vision was what you think is really important and necessary, it's not. And what really matters, it are those silly things like being happy, your family, your loves, doing what you care about. And I am just like, there's I could the money that I made in that carpet business and the trips that I took, whatever, it never meant anything. It just felt like a trap. And as soon as you get free of that, and my daughters grew up different than their friends, and they also, I'm not saying it was a good idea, but I just, luckily, because I made so little money and I was such a spectacular failure, that it just brought riches to them in terms of college scholarships and grants. I mean, and they both are incredibly successful because they realized they had no backstop. It was, the buck stopped here and it's not going anywhere. But they also they got the picture, and they live their lives in a way that, like, depression area children, that's kind of how they live. They have real estate and things and degrees and they budgets, because they, as like you, they didn't want to be poor, so they're living really good lives because they realized for them, they they knew that, I'm not saying I should have given them instability, but they took from that instability the best lesson, and they've done very well, and they're amazing. But I still sometimes, I don't feel guilty about it, but man, it was a lot to ask. But then, like, again, my daughter called me just today to say, clearly, Mom, we had a great time. I mean,
Related to that, if I could just jump in one more
you.
time for a reader question. PJ
Please.
Colando asks, and this is related, I think, to you as well, Vicki, which is why I'm jumping in. She wants to know if Marla Jo's kids resented that she made a living writing columns about their antics. And Vicki, I know from your own work that you've incorporated your family. So how would you guys answer that?
Well, I have to say that a couple of things. First of all, of course, I don't use my kids' real names, and I do use their pictures sometimes. And then young people, this breaks my heart to say this, but kids today don't read the newspaper. You know what I mean? They are on Twitter and TikTok and, Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So the only time they bring it to my attention or that they have any interest in anything I write is when somebody else brings it to their attention, so they don't really care. I made myself a rule when I started writing about them that I would never write anything negative about them that would the opposition researchers would dig up when they ran for president. Now, I'm kind of starting to feel like they might never run for president, so maybe I could loosen that up a little bit. But that was my rule. Like, is it just little childhood foibles, like not doing their homework or crawling around the Latin American Art Museum on their hands and knees, meowing like kitty cats, I mean, or is it, going to that giant statue of Michelangelo's David at Caesar's Vegas and screaming out loud, "He's naked!" in front of hundreds of people, But, so I really was careful about what I wrote. I mean, I didn't really want to write derogatory things about them, and mostly they don't care. Actually, the only thing they really care about is once in a while my daughter Curly Girl will read on my Facebook page, which I hope you're on my Facebook page. If you're not, you should get on there because we have fun on there. She'll read something I wrote on Facebook page, and she'll, like, take offense at it. And sometimes if you post comments on there, she'll take offense at your comments. And sometimes she'll even secretly post a comment in reaction to your comment. But other than that, No, they don't, and they only care about that because it's electronic, right? You know, because they have
That's what
lost
they're
the
watching.
ability to read the printed page entirely. So what about you,
Yeah.
Vicki?
I love it
Do your
that you
kids?
changed. I love it that you changed their names. That's so brilliant. I wish I would have thought of that. I'm like, yeah, no, I my I'm as well as you. I think of that. I'm really, there's certain things that I will not, you know, I talk about them in the sense that a little bit in my comedy for sure. But I'm really careful about, nothing, I did though, my I got in a little trouble the other day. My grandson Ben, he's 10, and it was Pride Day, and we were at my other grandson Timmy's tuba concert for Vista High School band, and Ben and I were sitting next to each other. I go, hey, let's post a Pride comment. Well, and my Ben I just go, hey, I just want to post a, happy Pride Day, and Ben leans in. He's 10 years old. He goes, Pride is about love, and love is love, and people loving each other. And then
Aww.
and his mom, everyone loved it, but Emily goes, Mom, you need to ask me if you can post my children. I go, yes, of course I should. Sorry. But but it is, I think that, if you're a writer like Marla is, and she's writing about her life, her adventures, there's no way around leaving your kids out of it. And for me as well, as a comedian, there's certain times I'm going to talk about things that are happening with my kids, like, and it's just going to happen, and it just has to happen, and my daughters are fine with it. But I like you, I wouldn't, say, oh, blank had sex for the first time with blank, none of that, none of those, any of that really personal stuff. That's never been anything. It's really peripheral.
Well, I want to talk about your book because, as you know, I recently wrote a book for the first time, or basically was a collection of my columns that was released, in November.
So
and
great.
thanks actually again to Miss Samantha Dunn for helping me put that together. And, it's something else that I want to bring up, and I hope that people will take this in when they're listening, is that do not listen to discouraging advice, because people give you advice because they want to spare you pain, but often they don't know what they're talking about, right? And it's like, don't throw your pearls before swine. I used to show my stuff to people even though I knew they wouldn't get it,
Yeah.
and then they would be like, what is that? And then I would I would be devastated. But they weren't even, Dave Barry used to talk about people who were not that they didn't think your joke was funny, but that they didn't even understand it was a joke. Right?
Yes.
He used to call those people humor challenged.
Yeah.
He'd be like, he'd get letters from people saying like, where can I get one of those nuclear powered hats that you were writing about? And that's true. I mean, you get these people that are just like, they're like, and they would write to me and they would go like, and what's with that? They would, criticize me, and then they would go like, and what's with the hat?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's a joke, right? So, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, sometimes you just have to brazen it through. And the thing is, people don't understand, and they want you to succeed, but they're going to give you all this advice. And I remember I was a little taken aback, because you're so funny and you're so talented, when you were telling me about writing your book, and then you told me all this advice that people had given you about like, oh, it's so hard to get a book published and it takes years to get a book published. And I just thought, yeah, I mean, people say that, but yet I don't want that to discourage you, because you're not them. And you might not be, you might be the exception to the rule also. And from the chapters of the book that you gave me, I mean, I fell out of my bed. I was laughing so hard, and it was so fascinating. And, I know that you're going to be able to publish that book really easily. And, a lot of people are going to want to read it because it's so good. So I hope that you feel like you've let go of that. And I hope that people in the future who are listening to this go like, I'm going to stop listening to that negative stuff. And I'm just, now, I don't want you to, to go and invest your life savings with some weird guru because I said that you should not listen to good advice, right? But what I do want you to do is to follow your instincts and follow your passion wherever it leads, and not let people discourage you.
Absolutely. You don't have to spend any money to write a book. You just you go work with a book partner later. You can join a writing group. You can send your stuff to Marla and ask her to look for it. But yeah, I mean, I've been trying this for like eight or 10 years, and finally this year, it's, you know what it is. It's Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day, writing and working. And I and my friend Julie Kid's been working with me, and she's brutal and like a taskmaster. It's just a matter of work. It's like anything else. It's just, and the great thing I think about writing a book is you kind of like you get a lot of like, like last, I was remembering things when you read it, like when I had Lily, my baby. My husband at the time, Jono, she was born early in the morning, 2 days after Christmas. I was bleeding. That she'd been a twin. The other twin had died. Nobody thought I would have the second baby. And the morning she was going to be born, it was like she was a week early, and I'm bleeding, and I bled when I lost the twin. And I'm like, it's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, get up. And he goes, no, it's too early. And I had to call my mother to come over and pick me and Emily up. She was 8, take me to the hospital. I walked into the hospital by myself, and I never thought that was unusual. I thought that's how I should be treated. That's how my life is. The nurses are like, are you alone? I go, yeah. You mean I have a husband? Do I have a father of a baby? Do I have a sperm donor? I got nothing. Well, let's sit you in a wheelchair, honey. That's like the life I was. And like, I was driving home from Hollywood last night because I had been working on that book, that section of the book yesterday. And I'm driving out of Hollywood at the Comedy Store. And I'm like, how did my life get from, you know, invisible, abused piece of shit, and like accepting it because I didn't know anything else, to leaving the comedian's parking lot and having an amazing night in Hollywood and driving home to my beautiful trailer. I mean, but I just go, how did my life get from there, this miserable life that I thought I would never be happy, and I just, whatever, you throw me a crumb, to like living like the dream, that amazing dream, like everything I could have never asked for, I'm getting, in terms of just joy. And
Well, you have beautiful daughters, and you also managed to find yourself a wonderful husband,
yeah,
who's a fabulous, fabulous guy, and, who uh, loves you dearly. So that's great, right?
honestly, and it literally, I have to say, it wasn't until I was with Lou, my current and favorite husband, that that it really struck me that people shouldn't walk into the hospital to have a baby with their husband not wanting to get up. I mean, but it never occurred to me that that was weird until I'd been with Lou for a while, and somebody would be nice to me, really treat me like, lovely. So yeah, I am super, lucky to have met him.
Well, so here's the thing, really what I wanted to say and what I wanted to talk to you about was this idea that, you can change your life around anytime you want to. I mean, you have so much more power over your life than you think you do, and it's very easy to get trapped into things and to tell yourself, I have no choice. But
I have no,
actually, you could blow it all up, walk out the door, and go live in Colombia for 6 months. I mean, you have so many more choices all the time than you think you do, because you've allowed yourself to be hemmed in by, a web of obligations and by your beliefs about yourself. And you made that prison for yourself, and you can get out of it. And I did that, right? And you did that.
absolutely. I remember I read this book called A Man in Full by Thomas Wolfe, and which is there was a story about the Stoics in that book. And what Stoics were like, they came down to the bottom, like they were like, if you could be a beggar, but you had to have integrity. And I swear to you, I read that book, and when I was just about to start thinking about like jumping out, telling my parents to sell the carpet store and going full on into comedy. And I thought to myself, if I'm pushing a shopping cart around with my 2 daughters, I literally went there in my head, will that be all right? I had to get to that worst place I could end up. would that be all right? And I had to say, yes, that'll be all right. And I remember one time, one of my friends, she was a mom friend. I accidentally told her that one of my jobs that weekend got canceled. It was like $120. And I go, ugh, I really am a little bit worried this week. And I didn't ask her for money. And I didn't say that for any other reason, just I blurted it out. And I got home that afternoon from picking up the girls or whatever. And there was 3 or 4 bags of groceries from Trader Joe's on my porch that I knew Georgianne had left me. And at first I was like, oh my God, this is it. I failed beyond belief. People are dropping off food. I've really failed. And then I went, wait a minute. Somebody loves me enough that they're going to drop me off food. How lovely is that? And it just changed my mind, like to go, how lovely that somebody loved me that much. And I took that love and that went in my heart instead of failure. And it was like a big change. So you are absolutely right. If you want to do something, you want to make a change, if you're with somebody that you don't love, if you're in a frightening situation, or you don't know if you can do something that you want to do, I can tell you, I was 40 years old and I did it. And it was always, even, we used to say, even if AGT didn't happen, I mean, enough stuff happened along the way to keep us going and make us so happy. It was always fun. I mean, if AGT didn't happen, I don't know that I would get to keep doing stand-up, which was the most important thing. It wasn't the money that I got from it. It was just the idea that I get to keep doing this. So everyone should know that, especially women and men, of course, everyone, no matter how people will tell you you can't do something, they will want to tell you that. They, like, because you said that, they want to protect you. But that's not, we only get to be here once. We should do everything we can to try to be happy. I didn't even understand the pursuit of happiness pursuit of happiness is in the Declaration of Independence. I never even paid attention to the pursuit of happiness. What's that? I mean, I never thought you should pursue happiness.
Well, let me talk to you about, speaking of pursuing happiness, you're going to be in Vegas, right? So, and this is a really cool little thing, and I only wish that I was going to be able to do it. But Vicki has a little secret for you, because she's going to be doing a show in Vegas. She's going to be taping a TV show in Vegas. Yeah. And here's how you can get tickets. So what's up, right. So,
yeah, you can go to Vicki Barbolak Comedy, and there's an Ask Vicki section, or you can direct message me on the Twitter, or you can get on my Facebook and direct message me there. But on August 9th, it's a Monday night, at the Fremont Theater, downtown Las Vegas, we're going to tape, it's going to be 2 shows. We're going to tape an hour-long comedy special called Big Trailer Nasty. So I'm super excited. So, and I'm going to have like 50 or 60 comps. So you can Vicki Barbolak Comedy in the Ask Vicki, but direct message Vicki Barbolak on Twitter or Facebook. Just become a friend on my public Facebook and tell me you want to go. And we'll be putting it out there more towards August, but Vegas is also back. It's really fun. I've been back lately. It's nasty again. It's bad.
So yeah, so she doesn't have that many comps to give out. So if you really want to go see her show on August 9th, yeah, hit her up pretty soon. And I wish I could go, but I'm going to be lolling around my cabin in Big Sur at that time. But believe me, I've seen Vicki many times. Now, one thing I want to warn you about Vicki is that she is kind of nasty. Okay, so if you're all prissy and like if you're a prissy kind of person, you don't want to go see Vicki's show, okay? Because or you want to bring some earplugs, or you want to drink heavily before you go in there, okay?
Unless you are a corporate sponsor, because I do these corporate shows and I'm completely clean, and I really am fine with them. But I'm going to be at the Watergate Hotel in August for a corporate show, PG-13. But I'm going to break into all the other rooms and look for people's secrets.
Ladies, I hate to be a killjoy, but we are at the end of our time together. Alas.
Thank you
I
so
know.
much for this. It meant so the world to me, Marla. You know, I'm such a huge fan, and I'm so glad that your book is such a big hit. And I've always loved your work.
Oh, okay. So
We lost her again. We lost her
Oh,
again.
sorry.
Anyway, thank you so much, Vicki and Marla, as always. You can get Marla's book almost anywhere, certainly Amazon.com. You check out the bit.ly that's listed on the screen here, and join us next month for our Get Frumpy Happy Hour. And we've also got Bookish with Carl Hyacin, Joyce Carolose, and more coming up next month. So to register for that and Marla, go to scng.com/virtual events, and you can also check out the shows that have already been recorded. And please support local journalism. Read our newspapers to find Marla's columns and visit our websites to stay informed, and always equally important to be entertained. If you'd like to share your thoughts from today, or if you have additional questions, please email us at events@scng.com. And don't forget to check Marla out on her Facebook page. Buddy, I will see you next time. Bye, ladies.
bye.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
everybody. Bye.